Good morning. Today is September the 17th, 2025. It's about 10:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and for the record, this is Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh. We're going to go over a couple of things happening in the world. So first off, President Trump, I'm glad you made it safely to the UK. Hopefully you can talk some sense into Keir Starmer there. And hopefully while you're there, Trump, maybe you're getting some much-needed lessons on how to treat royalty here in the U.S. Me. So, hopefully that is a fruit that comes out of the visit. But on the political side, I really hope that England can band together with the U.S. and can stop trying to persecute Israel, because England as itself doesn't have a whole lot of land that can tolerate a lot of fires. And I really would hate to sit here and say, yeah, it's going to cost you 100 million acres of this, before people wake up and realize that this is not a back and forth conversation. This is me as Elohim talking to the children of earth, telling you what I desire. That means either you can do it and keep your land and keep your lives and keep things at least in a somewhat sane way, or you can choose to weasel your way out, because that's really what happens. That really is when you have the Catholic Pope, oh, I denounce this, make peace. It's useless, you understand. You're all enduring the sins of yourselves, and then you don't like the pain and the turmoil that you're causing yourselves, and so then you want a ceasefire. What does that do? Right? That's like having cancer and then saying that I don't want to deal with the symptoms. So you want to take something that treats the symptoms but not actually take care of the source of the problem. Right? Because if that were the case, then you would eventually succumb to the cancer because you refused to treat it. Now, if we leave evil unpunished and not taken care of, then that same evil commits atrocity in the form of hostage taking, raping young women, using women, children alike as human shields. These are all symptoms of demonic possession, and these are the classic symptoms of a demon-filled world. So, Pope Leo, hear me. I don't know if you even understand me as your God or not, but the fact of the matter is, you are a child of the earth. You are a child on the earth. Means you're in my domain. It means I am your creator. I am your Elohim, whether or not you believe or care or anything. That's a fact. So the fact is, you can try to sanction Israel, and therefore I will curse you, because you are trying to curse my people. So, United Nations, before this time next year, United Nations, I'm going to ensure that you are politically gutted, and you are spleened out across the lands and never to be rebuilt again. You are made up of left-wing ideologies. You are made up with this false sense of love, a false sense of what it is to be humanitarian. Humanitarian means that we are looking out for the best interest of the good people of the world, those people that make society possible, those people that have righteous ideas, and they create upon those righteous ideas for the betterment of the brethren. Not things that is a surface level, skin deep love that looks good to the people, because most people are ignorant and idiots, which I'll get there. But the point is, you're simply trying to appease the masses. That is not the way, and that is not smart. I'm really disappointed that the lack of intelligent leadership upon the planet Earth is appalling. That I will change. Because as those continue to come to the truth, which is I, their Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, when people come to that realization, when people can pick up the Bible and read it with the proper lenses and perspective and the proper name, then the Ruach HaKodesh, which is an extension of me, will come in and again help make that rearrangement that you need. So then people that are in places of religious prominence, like Pope Leo, you would think these people know me. Like, that's the point, right? Like, that's the whole centerfold of what it is to be a religious leader, like the Pope, or even a common pastor in any capacity, a rabbi, a Cohen. That essentially is trying. Your symbol is that you are connected with me enough that you can translate and transfer my messages the way I am telling it. Not I say this and then mankind goes, so Yahweh wants it blue, well, we're going to do it black and just tell him it was blue. Like, again, I'm trying to be more patient with children of Earth, because I understand that, again, my absence for a considerable amount of your time has caused many, many rifts and many, many misunderstandings. So we're getting those clarified. So hopefully hopefully Trump can explain to you who I am, and then hopefully the Church of England can actually get behind that. Because if any nation, that's another thing, like, I don't want any nation to ever think that, oh, well, Yahweh just is interested in America and Israel and everybody, we're all screwed. That's not at all the case. I'm telling any and all people, governments included, if you want your people and your lands to be saved from fires, from floods, from peril, from judgments, then you need to incorporate my name as a testament of all time, and you're welcome to make me your permanent patron deity. That's fine, but it starts again with obeying those commandments. That's your basic law of civilization. And if done truly, that's another thing. You can't just say it and then go and do another thing. That's called being double-minded, and that is also not good. So when you look at the Ten Commandments, and you look at them in the form of oh, my computer stinks. So when you look at the Ten Commandments, this is what will help you, right? How do you not get led astray into the world? How do you not go and start worshiping rock stars as your God, right? How do you not worship political people or worship kings as essentially your God, right? That's what you're giving attention to, you're giving energy to, you're giving your finances to, you're sacrificing things unto these other gods. They don't have any power. They don't have the ability to save you. They don't have the ability to rehabilitate the human mind, heart, and body and soul. So therefore, they're useless, right? So we're trimming the fat here. So you shall have no other gods before me. And as I've said, if my people, need a fertility blessing, or if a female is having something that is truly more aligned with the divine feminine, that is an actual deity as well. That is a goddess. That is Asherah. That is my consort. And a very 2-minute explanation on that. So again, Asherah has been presented with me in other times in the deep past, and this time, right, is essentially me and her working things out and getting into the same lane and on the same page always. Now we are there. Now she understands what her purpose is, and now she's seen the kingdom. Now she not only is, she don't need to buy in, but now she is fully in her state of existence with me. Therefore, that is now that she is being put to work with essentially her powers, right? So in that case, I've heard a few of these, and it does not bother me in the fact that if you're, praying, honoring, and worshiping, that's fine. Again, in a private type of way, if a female needs to have that outreach in a spiritual matter. So think of the Ruach can kind of come in the male edition and then via the female edition. Both are signature of me, But if you looked at it where I can take the Ruach and filter it through Asherah, and then her, not spin, but then her essence along with that will be more catered and be more accepted into a feminine request. So, you should not make for yourselves a carved image, right? As Yahweh, again, my first position in existence does not have a body. So therefore, anytime I am in human form, it is a secondary body. And again, like, this is truly like just what I look like. But the fact is, you do not want to make carved images and begin worshiping them, because then you fall into another lane of idolatry, where humans can easily begin to believe that an object like a pencil or, whatever really, has some type of power. And it does not. Understand that there's only one power in heaven and on earth, and that is Yahweh, Elohim, YHWH. That is I. So, again, do not take the name of me, Yahweh, in vain. Do not use my name as a curse word. Do not use my name loosely. Do not, use it respectfully, and understand that if you know my name, you have been given a gift. You have been given a divine spiritual avenue to speak with me directly. That is not to be taken lightly. That is to be taken wholly, and it is to be taken very seriously. Okay. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's self-explanatory. Now here are also ones that, see, when you think of the type of character the Ten Commandments build in a civilization, you don't have competing religions, therefore you don't have faulty blood being spilled for non-existent gods or demon gods. You do not make for yourself carved images. Therefore, you do not have black congregations versus white congregations versus Jewish congregations versus, Middle Eastern whatever. That's what I mean. So you stay away from that, and you're essentially at the same time you're eliminating a lot of the problems that society has. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. When your entire civilization is built upon that, your work and your practices also require a balance. See, humans have hit the gas and said, again, trying to build up this slave worker culture, right? We're in the slave culture, and now in modern times, it's no different. Your tasks are different. So in modern times, how many bricks did you make today? We get a special treat from Pharaoh if we make 50 or more bricks. Oh, and if you hit 60 bricks, you get a double portion of chow tonight. That's the same mentality that America has started faltering on, right? When instead of America focusing on being free and creative, but the thing is, the only way America was successful is because it put me first. It put Elohim first. It put the traditions of the commandments and of righteousness first. So therefore, the American way is only possible when you have built righteous character. But, that also is a protection, right? That is telling your civilizations, like, we don't need to be pushing people past a 40-hour work week. In fact, people should be able to work a 30-hour work week and have the ability to have a home, have a family, raise children, because understand that in a national level, we need babies. Okay? We need righteous babies. And that's a big part of that, right? How is the largest part of the population going to try to have righteous, good babies when they themselves are not righteous? Like, then now you're creating lazy abominations that just become the further generational problems that we see today. So, honoring thy mother and thy father, that again goes without saying, but at the same time, we need to have mothers and fathers that are the examples and that are worth honoring. So this also goes back to some of my Asians, which I'm not surprised, but I see a big influx into my Asians that are beginning to kind of catch on to not only the true name, but they're diving into the first 5 books of the Bible. They're starting to really catch on. And a part of that system, Asian culture, I understand you all, you incorporate your ancestors. I do not particularly like the fact that it is, in a way, communicating with the dead. But instead of that, I would understand and accept, after a prayer to me, Yahweh Elohim, then you could ask, for your ancestral ones, right? For, well, again, I'm not really sure. You can't really ask them anything because they won't do anything. But you could light an incense in their name, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, that's not offensive. You're not asking your dead great-grandmother to do something for you. That would be a blasphemy against me. But I'm saying I have no problem with like, what are you trying to think of the Asian word, but I can't at the moment. But basically like an ancestry house, right? Where you burn incense in remembrance of your ancestors who were great before you, but honoring them. But honoring them while you're alive is even mostly, that's really what this means is, your father should be a righteous father, right? He should be disciplining when appropriate, but more or less teaching, ongoing and constantly, showing sons and daughters what is the right way versus the wrong way, instilling a sense of duty, of justice, and obedience unto not only me, their maker, but also unto their country. A sense of self and a sense of duty to your countrymen is also something I not only desire, but I command you. Because you need to have a sense of ownership to your own homeland. And thus, when you have a sense of ownership to your homeland, you'll not only, defend it, but then you'll begin thinking about how does your civilization continue to prosper and prosper more. If you hate America, you're never going to be good for America. If you hate the Jews, you're never going to come to my temple to worship. And that's my point. So you could not call yourself a Christian and then in the same mouth, shout anti-Semitic comments to my people. That's not going to happen. And, on that note, I've seen these talking heads, they're never short. They're never short of words to say, and they say like that the Jews are not the chosen people somehow. Well, understand that the Israelites are made up of 12 tribes, and those tribes are mixed between Hittites, Moabites, Hebrews, Africans. The 12 tribes symbolically represents most races that in that time engulfed the majority of the world, minus the Slavic and the Asian, right? They kind of have their own thing. And even back then, I worked with their patron deities. But again, I wanted a cultural difference. And so that's probably the only thing that I really can see I have achieved in this day and age. But anyway, again, you shall not murder. That's pretty straightforward. But again, we are in a time of demonic deception, right? Where people call evil good and good evil. This leads right into the whole Charlie Kirk situation. Demons are rallying, right? They're speaking ill of the dead. I ask you to reference Proverbs 18:21, Romans 14:10, James 3:9, Micah 6:8, and Matthew 5:7. This will give you explicit instructions that you are not to speak ill of the dead, because you too will be judged by me, on earth or in heaven, or sometimes by both. Point is, do not speak ill of the dead, and do not pass judgment on the dead. That is up to Elohim. That is up to me, Yahweh Elohim, not man. So, truly, I don't even want to say I told you so, because that genuinely is insensitive to the situation. But when I tell you that, my name, Yahweh Elohim, the same name that Yeshua died for, the same God that burned in the bush, that led Moses, again, like I've explained this, why Christians are reluctant to place the one that they should be worshiping at the forefront of the demonic battle that's ahead of us. Why Christians don't do that is clear, because you're demonically possessed, one, or two, you are so unlearned, you are so ignorant about the Bible in which you claim to follow or you claim to know. You do not. You do not. So, truly, I tell you, this left-wing radical, again, and I said this before Annunciation, I said that the transgender movement is a literal, bold, literal, italicized, underlined point when demons have moved from body to pig to body to male to body to female. They're so confused, they do have what's called gender dysphoria. That is a humongous warning sign. And again, due to the satanic version of love, right? Well, we're going to accept every snake. Just bring me all the snakes. And what you're doing is, in the left side of your eye, you're looking for the world to give you some kind of praise for being tolerant. That is actually being stupid. That is being debased. That is saying, I'm going to go walk out into traffic because I love cars. The fuck? Like, what? Say that again? Because you love cars, you're going to go run out in traffic? That don't make any sense. Because you love people doesn't mean that you need to love and honor and admire and allow wicked people to do as they will, which 100% of the time results in death, injury, destruction, and chaos in a modern civilization, which is happening now because the allowance of sin. You allow your television people like South Park to mock your president. That I can't argue the rules of America in terms of freedom, but I can tell you as an individual, one to another, and as your God, Elohim, I'm telling you, you are weakening your society by constantly scrutinizing and putting your politicians under such attack. You, by people in business and place of prominence, you are giving the wrong idea to those people that are demonically possessed. They're taking tips from your media. They're taking plays right out of the very music in which people are jamming out to. Like, that's what I mean. You are a self-feeding system of damnation, of demonic desire, of satanic ritual. Asher last night and I were talking, and I said people always come at this faulty point with me when they're like, I don't even want to believe in Elohim. I don't want to even believe in God because, then I have to do this. Then I have to do that. It's actually the opposite. It is simply things I, as your Elohim, tell you not to do. Do essentially anything you want, but if you obey those 10 commandments, all will be well with you. And if you want to do kingdom work as purposed and then continue that work into your next life, then you need to open up the Bible. And the Bible, first 5 books are the Bible, and then read it. Read it every year religiously as a family. And when you as a family unit or as an individual have that book understood so well, then branch open into other books that are supporting factors. They're supporting evidence. They are new stories to give you this confirmation that I, as Yahweh, don't just work in one location. or with just one people or at just one time. I'm not a Wikipedia page, which I would like that updated, by the way. I would like a piece of the Wikipedia page to say, you know, Yahweh now, you know, 2025 and something. Because you know what? When people are receiving my dreams, my visions, they're receiving my Ruach, I know that one of the first things they do is they go to Wikipedia and read my page. I would like them to have some updated information on there so that that individual can actually see something that is going to be helpful to them, right? Like, you know, third coming of Yahweh or something to that effect. Like, what do we expect from when God visits the children of men? You know, all these things. I don't know. You guys work it out, but that's a request, and I will be following up on it. So hopefully there's a saint out there that can maybe take that job upon themselves. And for that, I'll give you a special blessing. So I'll be keeping an eye out. So hopefully somebody will do that. You shall not commit adultery. Again, this is a huge one to me, because one of the first gifts I give my humans, that's another thing. As Elohim, I have milestones that I provide blessings, and my blessings are not empty words. My blessings are powerful, so powerful that the entire nation of Israel was built upon a blessing that I gave to Jacob. Understand this. That blessing that I gave to Abraham, that I gave to Jacob, those blessings were so powerful, but also was the curse that came with the forsaking of these things. Now, I would like the history books, the true Bible, and all these things to reflect my truth as my promises on both the positive, the blessing, but also on the negative. This is why I'm giving my nations, 195 of you. You all have an equal opportunity to come to me, Yahweh Elohim, make my name a place into your cities, into your nations, establish those 10 commandments, make it public, make it known to me, and then I will set you aside of a judgment. Even if your country isn't right yet, even if you still have issues, if you take that one step towards me, I likewise will take one step towards you. So, again, you shall not commit adultery. When you are married, that is it. That is your person. And if you have followed what I have said, you abstain from sex until you are married. Okay, that doesn't mean that we dabble in the flesh. I'm talking hands off. You can hold a hand and you can kiss on the cheek and you can do a little peck, but at the end of the day, no sex until you are married. The male must break and penetrate the virgin veil, essentially. When you penetrate the virgin veil as a married couple, that signifies up to heaven to say, we are now going to assign this future child an angel. You will receive multiple angels in your family. Now, when families are building what's called a righteous dynasty, a righteous dynasty should actually be something that every man and woman upon planet Earth should have been striving to do since day one. If you did that, 90% of every issue you've had upon this planet would have never existed. When I came down at this time, if that were the case, I would have came down and have been welcomed. I would have not had one, but I would have had at least 200 temples to visit. Much like Trump is visiting the UK, me and my Asherah and Cameron would be visiting our temples now, blessing people and literally doing all the things in which we as the heavenly family do, but in a very real way. Instead of that, now we're here at the bottom of the barrel having to deal with dregs, and I as Elohim, as your heavenly Father, am having to instruct righteousness back to mankind again, having to get demons to heal again, and all because mankind has had this narrative that they somehow you are somehow a random generated creature but yet you are so sophisticated you can't even replicate yourselves. You can't replicate one thing in creation. Understand that. You can't literally create one tree. You can't create life. I create life. Thus is why I am the only judge who can take life. Mankind does not have a right to take life. Charlie Kirk's assassin, demonic or not, does not have a right to take life. That's the end of the story. When humans move to murder, heaven shakes with fury. I shake with fury. You are then cutting my design out. And I don't care. I care about justice. I care about truth. This gentleman who murdered Charlie deserves the death penalty. I give the green light on that. Hamas terrorists who have kidnapped innocent people, who have raped women, who have used people as shields, who have starved their own people to feed their fighters, who have lied on the public stage, who have schemed with the devil, who have spoken ill of the dead that they have caused, who have not repented for the blood in which they've spilt, for their not only idolatry, but their demon worship and their propagating of religions that are trying to run parallel with me and confuse good people, good sheep. I mean, you're hitting every crime against my kingdom you can imagine. For that, there is a call to death order that is sanctified by America and it is sanctified by Israel. And any other country that wants to join in the fight against evil is welcome to. If not, then shut up. And the next country, nation, or state that speaks of a two-state solution, I hereby curse you 1,000 times. Your people should be, and this is again, if leaders are calling for two-state solutions, if leaders are calling for the denunciation of Israel or America because of Gaza, then I hereby curse you 1,000 times over unendingly. Your people should be holding these leaders accountable and saying, you know, Macron, you're just a man who's going to stand judgment in front of Yahweh anyway. Why don't you shut up and sit down, because we don't want our lands burned. We don't want our families plagued. We don't want demons in our homes and our schools. We don't want it. That's what I'm trying to say. And again, I use France because you are really idolatrous, you are really disgusting, you are highly sexual, and I can't stand you. Again, sex is between a man and a woman, two virgins, then you get your angel. When you have a child, the child has an angel. If you have multiple children, which I hope you do, when a man and a woman are in holy matrimony, have done the right way, your angels are layers of not only protection, but they are endless dispensaries of blessings. And then I get complete reports from these angels. So you know what happens? You literally could live a perfect life of peace, harmony, adventure, of goodness, of wholesomeness. And when you're building a righteous dynasty, imagine then those children who now have angels and they're growing up, and then they have children. And imagine a family of 50 and they've all done it the right way. These families would be so robust in treasure in heaven. You're talking about kings and queens and princes from a divine right given by me, Yahweh, because they not only walked perfectly before me, but all the blessings that I have stored up. That's a huge deal. Imagine that we were talking a parable here. So the parable of the skee ball. So let's say as Elohim, my treasure in heaven is like the tickets you get when you play the arcade game Speedball, right? You get a high score, you get a lot of tickets. Well, now imagine that the goal, right, is you need as many tickets as you want to then go to the kingdom counter and then start trading them in for, for goodies. Well, imagine that now humans, they don't even see the need to have tokens to even play the skee ball game to get tickets. Like, So you're leaving all that treasure just stored up in the game, and you're not even interested in doing it, because instead of playing my skee ball game that has tickets that then has the kingdom counter to go to, now you've decided to go spend your tokens on a game that doesn't give you tickets, that never gets you to the kingdom counter, but you're still using tokens. You see what I mean? Your tokens is your breath. It's your life. It's the opportunity that you were given being born on earth to work for the kingdom of heaven. Show me you can walk righteous before me. Show me that you can make a positive impact on my creation. Show me that you can be a good steward where Eve was not, Adam was not a good steward because they didn't listen. Instead of playing the skee ball game that I gave them with an entire reward system and promises all through the game, they turned their face away from the game, me. They turned their hands away from the promises that I gave them in trade of something that will never fruit, in trade of death, in trade of their own false desire. You know, another one would be, most people have pets, so it's easy to use a pet parable. You know, again, my dog, Atlas, not the comet. I mean, there's layers there too, but for the moment, Atlas, my dog, loves to cuddle. Like, he loves to get in my lap, he loves to cuddle, he loves for me to, you know, scratch his ears, but he also knows that if he goes outside and he goes to that damn fence that I tell him not to, right? If he goes into the high grass that I tell him not to, and he does listen for the most part, but if he decides to take that route, well, he's only hurting himself. I'm not going to then cuddle with him. And it may be a month. If he gets out there in that high grass, if he goes out there to that fence and he gets dirty, we may not cuddle for a whole month until his next bath. But he does learn to keep himself clean because he likes the reward of his cuddle. Just like the dogs get a treat after they've eaten dinner. Every time they eat dinner, I give them the meat treat. And these are the rewards that I give them, not for doing anything spectacular, but just listening to what I said. And I don't tell anybody anything for just a random benefit to me. Everything I teach my humans, everything I instruct the earth is for your own good. Because when you guys are good, you're usually good to me. And when you're good to me, I want to be really good to you. And then we start getting into an actual relationship of saying, you know, humans are really good at taking care of the royal family who actually do nothing for you. That's what I mean. Imagine if you were to take care of the heavenly family who has actual powers to bless, actual powers to remove evil, powers to do virtually anything we want to do. That's developing a true relationship. But again, humans want to go play the game that doesn't have any tickets. You want to man worship kings and queens that don't benefit you. You want to prop up, you know, public speakers because they're witty. You know, you want to worship political pundits because you see the false might of a military, whatever your thing is. But anyway, obviously you shall not steal. If people didn't steal from a corporate executive level down to a personal level, then you know what? You wouldn't have insurance scams. Insurance really has turned into a scam because the insurance is only going to pay a fraction of this cost for this medical service. So now the medical service just triples up what they actually charge for it. And so it's literally a game of deception. Everyone's just trying to constantly deceive another until their foot is on the other's neck. And if you can step out of that for a minute and go, wow, we are wicked. Wow, we are evil. Wow, now we know why Yahweh is so pissed off at everybody. Wow, we have really turned the left corner, crawled up the devil's ass, and called it home. Then you people will start to finally wake up and smell the coffee. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Again, that goes without saying. bearing false witness. Do not go around and try to spread rumors. Humans are notorious for this, especially corporations. You guys tear at each other thinking that it's cute, that it's popular, that it's funny. Stop it. You're ugly, and you make the world that I created even more ugly. I'm here to tell you something. This world, before you all were here, was perfect. And it wasn't just perfect because I wanted it perfect. It was perfect because I wanted it perfect for you. You have all taken the gift that I've given you in the physical, the creation, and you've wrecked it, and you care not. You've taken the own breath that I've given you for granted, and instead of doing anything of a positive merit, you just try to kill each other. Or you damn each other. To what benefit does that do my creation or myself? It does nothing. And you shall not covet. Now, Asher and I like watching our home shows. Well, I mean, I guess I can call them our home shows now. Originally, they were just her home shows, but we spend a lot of time together as husband and wife, as, you know, king, queen, consort. And it's interesting, right, to see all the creations that pie us up, right? You know, we really like I call it the Dave and Jenny show. I don't know what it's really called, but they do like the house remodels. I really like Dave. I like, you know, I like them as people, first and foremost. Much like I like, you know, Ben and Aaron Napier as well. But, and several others. You know, I liked Egypt and Mike. A lot of them, really, because, you know, they are so into their purpose, and they do it as a family. They do it as a couple. And it makes my heart sing. But my point is about coveting. You know, a lot of these people, before they made it big, they were the contractors, right, building these multi-million-dollar homes for multi-millionaires. Meanwhile, they're going back home to normal homes. But you know what? If they found covetous in their heart, they would have actually never fell into sync into their purpose. They would have been distracted by, gosh, woe is me. You know, I'm really disappointed that my house is only a $200,000 house and I have to go and build a $750,000 house. Like, having that negative attitude towards those that in the moment may have more than you, right? Because it's never about that. It shouldn't be. But likewise, I mean, truly, we shouldn't even be considering houses that expensive. There's no need. You know, humans have had this innate thing to constantly foam at the mouth for things you don't need. Because when you begin taking more and more off the platform, that platform continues to go down. And at the end, there's nothing left. You know, that was a movie that, I mean, years ago I said to everybody, kind of right at the beginning of this, I said, I want everybody to watch this movie. It's called The Platform. And I don't know, let's just say for rough numbers, it's got like 200 levels. And it's like a maximum security type of prison. Well, the platform starts at the top. And it's got all this food on it. I mean, more food than you could imagine. I mean, it's huge, right? Let's just say for rough numbers, like the rooms are 500 square feet and the table makes up like 400 feet of it, like that big. So level one's kind of nice, right? Because your food is perfect, it smells good, it comes down, and then after like 15 minutes, the platform goes down, the hole closes, and then the next level gets to eat. Well, now they're eating secondhand food, but for the most part, there's still a lot left that they can get that hasn't been tainted. Then level 3, then 4, then 5, and it continues to go down. Each time the platform goes down, the attitudes of the people get worse. Because now they're seeing that they're stuck with the leftovers. Now they're having to eat the chicken that has bite marks all over it. And then they start becoming a little tilted because of their situation. So you know what they do? They begin like ruining the food. So they'll piss on it, right? They'll spit on it. They don't care. And anyway, all the people at the bottom, essentially, it gets worse and worse and worse. And then at the very bottom, there's zero food. No one can eat anything. And those people die. And people on floors 1 through 5 could care less about floors 6 through 10, could care less about 11 through 15, could care less. And this is a root of an issue in human society. Big issue. And instead of coveting, instead of being, instead of taking more than the plate, people that have that ability, that have that money, that have those resources to spoil oneself is literally something of the devil. Truly. Because instead of looking at things as money, you need to start looking at things as resources. Money is only good as the resource it can apprehend, and the resource you apprehend is only as good as the people it benefits. That goes true to any nation, any country, any person, any prime minister, any president, any king should understand the basic principles of that. Which is why when my temple is erected, these are the wisdoms that not only I as Elohim will bring to the world, but these are the teachings that I as Elohim bring to life through action, not just words. Which is why I get upset with Pope Leos of the world. Because they might be shaking hands and taking pictures and people just goo goo gaga over them, but how effective are you? What are you actually doing? You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything because you do not understand what true kindness to the world means. You do not understand what mercy really means. You do not understand what compassion really means. You do not understand the foundational pillars of society that I as Yahweh Elohim created before the earth was made. The earth is a model after heaven. And in heaven, we do it perfect. That's truth. That's fact. And paradise, before the fall, was always intended to be open to mankind, free as can be. But because of the desire of something outside of what I provisioned for you, that is what occurred, and thus is a stopping point with me, Elohim. If people want more than what I have provisioned for them, then I will never satisfy that hunger. And then demons can come in, sup with you, and derail you. Alright, I will take a 5 and then we will reconvene on the ending. Okay, we're back. Alright, so it's already about 50 minutes in. I'm 48 minutes in. I'm going to try to start rolling through some of my actual task items. But it was a good opportunity, to re-roll out the commandments, because at the end of the day, those are your foundation, and they can be expanded upon. I mean, you could break out an easy 10-week service a year. You only have 52 weeks in a year. You could spend 10 weeks, one commandment each week, on a Saturday or a Sunday service. And see, I do believe that as Elohim, I'm giving proper provisions. I'm not scorning Christians saying you must worship on Saturday. I'm not saying that. You can keep Sunday. I'm not even taking, your Christmas away. Again, I desire that to look different than how it has been, but I'm trying to let all the things that are not absolutely abrasive to me stay. Because I genuinely want human happiness. That's what brings me happiness. Much like it brings me happiness when my creatures desire to spend time with me. Right? So on the simple micro scale, I love having evening time with my wife, my kids, and my dog is usually right there with me. I enjoy that time with him as much as he enjoys that time with me. But if he goes and gets himself dirty, then he misses out on a good cuddle, but then I also miss out on a good cuddle. And I would then have to interrupt my usual schedule to go and re-clean him, right? Which is why my feasts to me are important, because these are times that I emphasize focus on forgiving sin, removing shame, and instead of at every whim, at every turn, I would actually say it this way. And I really do. I try to use the human perspective as much as I can, because I think it's beneficial to try to see it from you, from your all's perspective. Had to redo the drink here. Coffee was cold. But anyway, where was I at? Oh yeah, so seeing it through your eyes, I want my Christians, my Hebrews, my Israelites, all children of earth. I don't care. It could be anyone. That's what I said. If you're a living, breathing person in one shape or another, one lane or another, you still are upon my creation and you are still under my supervision as the Heavenly Father. Thus, use your example that I provided to you, right, as I worked through Yeshua, right, as I worked through him as a living man, to give that example, but also to give that realization of how serious the sins are unto me, Yahweh Elohim. Because one sin begets another, and another sin begets another. And before you know it, the world looks exactly like it does today. Young people's lives being cut before their time because of evil. People that have the ability to do something about evil are cowardice and they don't. People that look at those that are dealing with evil in a negative way and trying to convince the world that somehow that evil must be handled gently. No. And I'm sorry, it is an atrocity. It's an atrocity that it ever happened. Most of the things is an atrocity that it's ever happened. But again, every single time, 100% of the time, it was because sin opened the door, a demon walked through it, it came into man, and it's now chaos. It's chaos. And understand that human beings, as your body, your soul is a living, breathing entity. It is who you are as a person. It is why one person prefers cherry ice cream over chocolate, which is why one person prefers purple curtains over green, or another person prefers, a white car to a black car. That's who you are. And your created purpose is not always easy to identify, but that's also a part of your that's a part of your path. So when I get angry about man worshiping, it's because people are looking to the archetypes of other men, and instead of them following their purpose that I created them for, they're following fallible man. And again, can't do that. You need to follow the purpose that I as Elohim created in your heart, because that purpose is what leads you to me, and I am who leads you into the heavens, and then I am he who also gives you that purpose and an eternal life. That's truth. That's fact. And when my humans, again, stand ignorantly to me in any fashion, you're doing yourself a disservice. If anyone on earth even has a minor inclination that they somehow in your own minds think that you love Yeshua, Yahushua, or who you call Jesus more than I, Yahweh, you're sadly mistaken. He gave his life because of the sins of humanity. He died in a grotesque way by the hands of ignorant religious people who wanted a brick and mortar system versus the living Elohim. I am that Elohim who animated Yeshua, but it was in a way a combo. It was Yahweh and Yeshua, right? I am the spirit that was in him leading him. I am the spirit that was in Joshua leading him in the beginning. Same spirit who spoke to Moshe in the burning bush. I am he, and I am not sharing my being with anyone. Which again is also why I have my Asherah now in this time as we complete the battery. A battery has a positive and a negative side. Not that her and I are negative in any way. What I mean is, if you tried to take a battery, but the battery only had a positive, well, a battery can't function without the negative. It would be faulty. It wouldn't work. You must have both ends of the battery and the right size for it to fit. Understand that. Thus, for me as Elohim on earth, having my consort with me in the flesh, it completes me. By me being complete, I can funnel my Ruach from myself, but two ways now. I can adhere in a closer, more interpersonal way to the divine feminine without feeling that I am in somehow a way transgressing my own matrimony, because even I as your Elohim am the only one to be praised, worshipped, honored, and glorified. But when you're calling upon the power, right? A male, my divine masculine energy may not be what is truly recommended for a female situation. You would need the divine feminine energy for those types of things, is what I'm trying to say. So, all right, moving through my list. United Nations. I think I've already, jumped off the diving board on this one, but I'll just recap it. So, United Nations, you are sick. You are infested with left-wing idealizations. There is no place on my earth for those ways, and I do rebuke you strongly. I denounce your senseless acts of oppression while causing justice to fall and stumble. United Nations, your blanket calls for ceasefires do nothing but then allow the enemy to act more violent, to create more terror upon the good people on my creation. Your reluctance for justice is equal to that of acts of terrorism. Understand me. Your absence of justice is as equal in my eyes as if you committed direct acts of terrorism. Because when good men and good women fail to act in a righteous, dutiful, and respectful but justice way, you might as well open the door, because then you are a coward. And if people of any nation are having protests saying, give demons what they want, let the demons kidnap, let them rape, let them do this, we'll duck our head in the sand and sing Kumbaya. If your leaders are too stupid to be able to explain to their own people why it's happening because of sin, what the only remedy is, if your leaders can't do that, people of earth, I tell you, then choose better leaders. Because if you do not, sweareth I, saith the Lord God Yahweh Elohim Yahuwah, I will destroy nations. And I don't mean crack it or fracture it. I mean entire desolation, Sodom and Gomorrah, but 195 nations minus only 2. And those 2 go often on the list at the whims of their leaders. So, people of America, people of Israel, instead of protesting your leaders, you should be praying unto me for your leaders. Your leaders should be standing behind me, as written, the Lord God Yahweh is my shield. He is my buckler. He is my salvation. He is my creator. Through him all things are possible, and through him we are victorious from the beginning and to the end. That through him we cannot fail. We cannot fall. We will not stumble. We will enter into the promised land through death or through life. That is the power that representatives of people of earth should have. That is truth. Because kings and queens are mortal. Presidents are short-term and mortal. Public speakers are short-term and mortal. I, as your Elohim, as your God, as your eternal Yahweh Elohim Yahuwah, I am not mortal. I am eternal. The same voice that speaks with you in 2025 is the same voice that I spoke with disciples and Pharisees and Nicodemus himself 2,000 years ago, and the same voice that spoke face to face with Moshe is that same voice. And the same voice that walked hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the Shasu, that is I. That same great spirit that the Native Americans spoke about, Yahuwah, is me. The same Elohim that small minor patron deities of local areas, the only one that they bow to was me. So, United Nations, you're on notice. And if there are witnesses, there are many, of course. France, England, your fires, I can turn the heat up even more. I can turn the heat up even more. So, the choice is yours. If mankind truly in their heart says there is no Elohim, that you are somehow a spontaneous creation of absurdity, let's look at it this way. If I took, and this is even giving a 8,000% overage, if I took pizza dough, pepperoni, cheese, and oil, and I put it on a remote planet, how long do you think it would take for the pizza to assemble itself, to cook itself, and to come out and be proper to eat? Would it ever happen? Of course not, because there is no hand to assemble it. And it would still need a hand to create the material in the first place. I, as Elohim, am he who makes exist. I am he who made the dough, made the pepperoni and the cheese, and guess what? I made the oven for it to go into. I am the designer of all things. So by humans thinking that you somehow belong to yourselves, you're not somehow evolutionary in your thinking. That is actually going in reverse. People at a very, very, very early on in Earth's history knew I existed because of the law of absurdity. Humans, you missed that one a long time ago. The law of absurdity is the human body in design is perfect. You live off of the food in which I allow and I planted in this creation. Without my hand, this creation would not be habitable. Without my designing of a human body for myself, and then a desire to have a family, humanity would never have existed. If I myself know what comforts a human being because of my own body, thus I've given you all the things that I've given myself. Why can't you see that? And I, as Elohim, measure out just enough provision for me, Asherah, and my children. And I really am the King of all kings, the God above all other gods. And yet I myself am poor in the eyes of my own constituents. Because you still measure in money, you measure in clothing, you measure in what society says you are, instead of what I, as Elohim, say you are. If you were the richest person in the world and had every pleasure given to you, and you lived a full 120 years, if after you die you do not make it into my kingdom, what was the point? You wouldn't even have memories to comfort you in your afterlife of all the perfect life you lived, because you lived selfishly. You had much and gave none. You had the means but not the heart. A lot of people have their head full of the Bible, but their heart's devoid of me. Or their hearts are full of idols and they reject me. In all those scenarios, it does not lead to the door of the kingdom. And that it really is man's own damnation. So, moving on. New Canaan or New Jerusalem, I guess the name we will see. We'll see what I want to name it. And maybe I'll put it up to a vote. So I think I'll narrow it down to like 2, maybe 3 names. And then I will let the people decide what name they want. But good people in Gaza, right? Get out and away from the mayhem. And my people shall help you. But Gazans must desire this change. Gaza, you must desire this change. And you must offer up your tormentors. Because Gazans, let me tell you, the way you're living and the way you have been living by the hands of evil and oppressors who manipulate you, who control you, who have brainwashed you into thinking that the world hates you, the world does not hate you. I, as Elohim, do not hate you. I, as Elohim, truly do love all people. I love any person who loves my law and my commandments. Because when you love my laws and my commandments, you are showing me, Elohim, true love and affection. When something good happens and you give me glory and praise, I want to pay you again with a goodness. But when mankind chalks it up to, man, I was lucky, you weren't lucky. But you know what? If you want to remove my glory and call something that I did or my angels did luck, then the next time I will leave it up to your luck. And those people find themselves unalive. They find themselves cut short. That's a fact. And I, as Elohim, desire obedience, because that is how we get to the cuddles. That is how we get to the treats. That is how we get to a level that, as your Heavenly Father, I can not only take care of you, but I can take care of everyone. But at every turn, if every one of my plans, designs, and requests fall on deaf ears, do not become tenets of 4, then guess what? We go nowhere. So week after week, mankind fails me. One by one, you fail me. You keep failing me, then you all will continue to perish. And again, if I have to smote places to make a point, I will. But just know, there's the right way that no one's doing, and then there's the wrong way that everyone's doing. Stop looking up to men. Stop worshiping idols. Stop misunderstanding me. Stop being unjustful. Last point. Children are like clay. So as parents, you need to be sculpting them and molding them to be fit for kingdom service. And parents, you need to be a model for what you want to see your kids in the future. Asher and I had a parent-teacher conference this morning about Cameron, and it was a wonderful conference. Not only is he adored by his teachers, he's friends with everybody, but he's not just friends with everybody. There are individuals that he steers clear of, but he's respectful. Super, super smart. But he sets an example for his peers. And I, as his father, and Asherah as his mother, set an example of what we want him to be in the future. And parents these days have adopted a very sinister, in a way, demonic outlook with their children and life. If a father's fine smoking dope and being all these things and being unrighteous, then he sees no problem with his son smoking dope and being a burnout. And thus, you're continuing to go down the drain. You're continuing to go further away from me, Elohim. So, parents, when you can have a self-awareness that you understand the actions that you're doing, right? Women that have habitually failed relationships and you have children from so many different males, look to your daughters because they will end up doing the same thing. As a parent, you are the first level of approval for your children. Even if you don't speak that, when they see the parent's behavior, they will model after their behavior. As we say in the conference today, you know, if mom, right, jokingly says, well, I hated math in school, you know, and I turned out okay, that child is going to adopt that mentality. My mama said I don't have to like math and I turned out fine. That's a terrible, terrible poisonous seed that you just planted in the mind and the mold of a child. You should be ashamed. So many parents this Saturday and this Sunday need to come up to that altar. This is a special request from me, Yahweh Elohim. The first step towards me, your one true God. And if you were walking in Christ as I have told you to, if you are following your Christ as the example, if you are following his teachings as an example, then you should be the first at that altar to apologize for being bad examples to your own children, to not living up to your Christian standards in private, because I as Elohim see all the deeds that man does when a normal man could never see you. I see the secret deeds, good and bad. I see the secret heart, good and bad. Those are things that men and women, all races, all creeds, all nationalities need to do. And you know what? As religious leaders, as you are, Pope Leo, your behavior works the same way. If you choose to continue to be obstinate for me, Elohim, then I have no other choice but to consider your churches a bafflement to me, but not on my side, therefore not in my purview of protection. You as that religious leader need to make yourself the example. You should be explaining to your Catholic people why the war in Gaza is necessary. You should be teaching about justice. You should be putting down idols. But instead, I see the Catholic Church raising up more idols. The Catholic Church using blanket catechism prayer to somehow catch my attention and care and concern. You turn up my wrath because you are obstinate from me. In Christian churches, believing that your example is your God is faulty. Not seeing me, Elohim, inside of that man is how you should see that. Do not worship that flesh. That is your example. That is what you strive to be. So committed to me, Yahweh Elohim, that in the face of religious leaders, you will walk. In the face of oppression, you will still walk. When things are unrighteous, you are to be righteous. When people, places, and things are unjustful, you yourself will be dutiful and support justice where it belongs. Instead of pouring your time, attention, and money and efforts into things that break and rot and go away like the moth eats the coat, you are to pour your time, your money, your efforts into my kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, for that is where your true treasure is stored. And man's time on earth is very short, and the time in the kingdom is always. If you were as diligent about storing up your treasure in heaven as you people seem to be storing up treasure on earth, the world would truly then be below as above, as done in heaven as done on earth. So parents, set the example of what you want to see in your children. And that starts public leaders. You know? And there is only one outcome. The outcome is that I am the victor already. I just give time in between that so human beings can come to a realization that no, you are not spontaneously existent upon creation. No, you are created by Elohim. You are cared for by Elohim if you allow me. Life does not have to be a chore, but can be a pleasure. But it can be a pleasure in all the right ways. So let's clean up the behavior. Let's start being model citizens. And for the love of me, please stop with the idolatry. You know, and that's another thing. Like, getting so far away from truth, because I would still be wrathful even if you guys all had the name right, because your character is absolutely atrocious, and you cannot, in a good faith, in a good heart, call yourself a Nazarene, which also translates into people calling themselves Christians. You are actually referring to being a Nazarene, meaning that you are a wise one of Yeshua of Nazareth, Yahushua, who Yahweh was inside the man of Yeshua. Yahweh, as I am Yahweh, the Spirit, right, ascended upon Yeshua in the River Jordan. And thus, you as every man and woman should desire my Ruach to ascend upon you and give you that confirmation. And I tell you with 100% certainty, you didn't go to McDonald's and get a Whopper. So stop false witnessing, period. Because when you have been secured by the hand of me, Yahweh Elohim, it isn't a placebo effect. It isn't a, oh, I overcame my drug problem, it must have been Jesus. No. That's not saving. That's just your body and your mind finally surrendered an addiction. But when you have had an experience with the Ruach HaKodesh, you have felt me. And then you know who you belong to, and you know the way to walk. And for that, no man, no woman would ever forsake my name, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahuwah, because they will know. So when people are yelling at me, Jesus, it is the equivalent of saying, I went to McDonald's and got a Whopper, and you're yelling that at me. That's how stupid you look. You're yelling that at me. So, have a good Wednesday, and we will catch you tomorrow.